You're living a fantasy. There is no Queen of England.
Watching Megamind through Roxanne's perspective completely transforms the film. For years, she has been labeled as the damsel in distress. But when you follow her journey closely, you realize that every single day of her life, she's been trapped on the sidelines of a battle between heroes and villains. And yet, when it truly mattered, when Megamind gave up and returned to jail, when Metro Man abandoned the city for his musical career, and when Titan was ready to burn everything to the ground, it was Roxanne who found the strength to stand alone. She unshackled herself from her chains, faced a monster by herself, and forced me to ask myself, was she the real hero all along? Look, I'm not being dramatic for no reason. Watch this video in its entirety and you're gonna see why watching Megamind from Roxanne Ritchie's eyes is a completely different movie. It's also hilarious how many things she does in the background. So the first time we're introduced to Roxanne is at the beginning of the movie, and she tells us about the downtown area where she gasses up the beautiful Metro Man. Her name is Roxanne Ritchie, and she's reporting live from the dedication of the Metro Man Museum. And her coworker says that the stuff that they make her read is unbelievable, to which she tells him that she actually wrote that piece herself. So Buddy does a 180 and retracts his statement and disagrees with himself to agree with her, which is him just trying to get a brownie point. Anyway, she tells him that she wants to get into the Metro Man spirit, to which he tells her that he wishes that Megamind wouldn't kidnap her all the time. Now, this obviously implies that Roxanne Ritchie is always being captured, which can be quite annoying, especially if it happens every week. Anyways, an invisible car pulls up randomly and knocks her out. This is a recurring thing for her. One day she's doing a news report and everything fades to black. That's how she lives her life. And can we just talk about the car that just hit that man? RIP to him. Man, the body count in Megamind is actually pretty high, but no one ever talks about it. Anyway, we pan to Hal's perspective and we can actually see characters in the background that got hit by that invisible car that belonged to Megamind, but I think Minion was driving it in the moment. Ouch. Anyways, we gotta go back to Roxanne's perspective. This is all about her. So as far as I'm concerned, she did her news report, started chopping it up with her coworker, and everything faded to black, and all of a sudden, she opens her eyes, and she's still seeing black because there's a bag over her face. The villain of the movie Megamind has captured her once again, and the only reason she knows this is because it stank in there. The stench is ridiculous. She's been captured so many times that it's gotten redundant for her, like she knows what's happening. She even scoffs at Megamind for not washing that damn bag. Anyways, Roxanne predicts everything that Megamind is about to do, and he fails to scare her over and over again. And they just kind of wait for Metro Man to get into action to save her from being captured. So Megamind decides to interrupt Metro Man and puts Roxanne on the broadcast. Now, even though this is a dire situation, Roxanne obviously does not care because she knows she's going to be saved at the end of the day. She don't really fear death. She's seen this script happen every week. But today's gonna be a little different because Metro Man went to the wrong location. Now things are starting to get serious. That confidence that Roxanne had before is starting to fade because Megamind tricked Roxanne into thinking that she was in the real observatory. Now things are out of the ordinary and out of the norm for her. She is shocked. She has no idea what's coming next, but deep down she's still hoping that Metro Man will come out on top. He's never lost a battle. However, during Metro Man and Megamind's ridiculous banter, she says this.
Use the product for its intended purpose.
Oh, girls, you're both pretty. Can I go home now?
Hilarious.
Target dead crab nuggets!
What did he just say?
Crab nuggets?
Anyways, we get the first fake out death of Metro Man with the explosion. However, we see something hurtle towards the camera, which everyone assumes to be Metro Man. However, it's revealed that that is actually his skeleton. And in this moment, Roxanne sees his corpse right in front of her. Now, it's safe to say that she is traumatized for life. Anyways, Megamind actually ended up winning by accident. He didn't actually plan for this to happen this way. So as Megamind takes over the city and gives a speech, we see people using their flip phones. And God, this movie is really dated, isn't it? But to me, this is a timeless classic regardless of that. Anyways, we see Roxanne in the crowd briefly hearing Mr. Megamind yap about what he's gonna do and how he won. Now, it's actually important to note that Roxanne was untied manually from Megamind because how did she get out of this trap? And also, he didn't even decide to kill her like he always pretended he would have done in the past. Anyways, Megamind gives a speech about how he eliminated the most powerful person in the universe, and Roxanne is just like, can you shut the hell up? Your plan worked by accident, you buffoon. I was there there. She saw him flip-flopping between miscalculation after miscalculation. Also, I think her facial expression here shows grief and pain. Like, she's literally traumatized from what she saw before and she's holding in tears. I mean, she did see Metro Man die right in front of her. And I guess this is the point where Roxanne actually loses her cool and interrupts Megamind. She wants to know what he's going to do with the rest of the city. And gosh, I didn't realize this until now, but Hal is so infatuated with Roxanne. Look at the way he just smiles as he tosses his camera to record her from behind. All right, enough of Hal. I'm getting sidetracked. Let's shift our perspective back to Roxanne. Anyways, Megamind gives a lame response saying he's gonna do terrifying things to the city, and the scene ends. So Roxanne goes back to what she does best, which is reporting, and she lets the world know what happened to Metro Man. It's a pretty sad day, and the news report reflects that. Anyways, we cut to the actual location of Roxanne where she did that news report live. And Roxanne tells her coworker that she'll see him tomorrow and tries to walk away. However, Hal gives her an invitation to hang out because he's having a party at his place.
You should come over. I got a DJ, rented a bouncy house.
Hal, I don't really feel like being around a bunch of people.
No, that's the best part. It'll just be like you and me.
Now pay attention to what's happening on screen here. She doesn't want to hang out, and every time she tries to walk away and break the interaction, notice how Hal follows her. And she's just like, why is this guy still talking and not getting the hint that I don't want to hang out with him? Man, these animators were so good. DreamWorks is phenomenal. Do you see the attention to detail? Look at her facial expression. I mean, she is stunned that he is invading her personal space to this level. Anyways, that's enough of that scene. We see Roxanne take some time for herself to reflect, and we actually see the parallel of Megamind doing the exact same thing, because Metro Man was important. Both Megamind and Roxanne look up at the statue in silence, and Roxanne says out loud, "What are we supposed to do without you? Evil is running rampant in the streets." Now at this point in the film, she thinks that she's the only one up there talking to herself, and maybe her words are just fading away in the wind. However, someone interrupts her, and it's Bernard, and even she realizes how awkward this may have looked, so she tries to play this off. Anyways, I told you guys that Megamind was on the other side of that platform, and he himself is also mumbling things out loud, and it actually echoes, but she can't see him visually, so she's just like, what the heck is going on? Roxanne wants to check out where that voice came from. At this point, she probably hopes she's not crazy, and Megamind doesn't want her to see him in this vulnerable state, so he decides to shapeshift into Bernard. But Megamind is fumbling hard, and she's running on the platform to see him, but she ends up finding the shapeshifted Megamind as Bernard. Now keep in mind, this area is about to explode because Megamind put a bomb on it to wipe out any memory of Metro Man. Anyways, Roxanne is very in need of someone to talk to and give her company, because like I told you, this is a woman who is mourning a loss. I don't think she's just some side character. She tells us how she was hoping that Metro Man would have escaped. It's pretty intense because you can see that Roxanne has a connection with Megamind, because she literally starts touching him and trying to comfort him in this moment. This is actually what both of these characters needed, even though they had no idea they were talking to each other, except for Megamind. Now at this point in the film, Roxanne thinks that someone is going to stand up to Megamind because she thinks that somebody will be motivated to take him down now that Metro Man is gone. So these two get along pretty well, and the crazy thing is, the movie shifts its perspective back to Megamind for a while, but I'm skipping ahead to Roxanne because she still has his number, so she rings Mr. Bernard, even though it's Megamind. And Roxanne is serious about taking Megamind down. She tells him on the phone that she's found his lair, which is ironic because she's talking to the man himself. And Roxanne actually ends up giving Megamind a hug, saying that she'll call him tomorrow. Yeah, man, he's a player. Now, but on a serious note though, this is actually really sweet. She gets back into the news van with Mr. Hal, and she drops him off at his apartment, which I actually didn't realize she knew where he lived. It makes you wonder why she never entered his apartment. Anyways, lol. Megamind starts to ramp up the heat, and him and Roxanne go on all these crazy fun dates. She thinks she's still talking to Bernard, and she's like, man, I never knew you were this funny, dude. And at this point, Megamind was also falling for her in a natural way, like this wasn't force or some scheme to kidnap her like he usually did. Now this is a pretty cool scene. Roxanne tells Megamind that she used to come to this park with her mother when she was a kid.
I used to come here with my mother when I was a kid. It was one of my favorite things to do.
She tells us how she is unpleased with the scenery now, with there being trash everywhere. Through the eyes of Roxanne, I believe that she is a very seasoned character, even if she is on the sidelines like many people assume, and she is labeled as the supportive character. I believe that everyone is important, even in animated movies. I mean, does this not sound like a woman who is talking about her mother? She's also a person who saw someone get killed right in front of her, and she goes through stages of grief. But if I were to ask the average person person who watched Megamind anything about Roxanne, they would be like, oh, you're talking about that chick that needed to be rescued throughout the film? The damsel in distress? Now I'm gonna give props to Mr. Megamind because he actually showed that he cared about Roxanne by cleaning up the trash. Dude, I never realized how romantic this movie was. Like, guys, rewatching Megamind through the eyes of Roxanne actually made me realize that Megamind can also be coined as a romantic comedy. I know, but guys, can we start looking at this like a romantic comedy too? That's the vibe I've been getting this whole film, when I look at her perspective, that is. And Roxanne drops the most insane line I've ever heard.
Metro Man and I were never a couple.
But I thought you two were...
I know, everybody did.
Now, I remember one of you guys leaving a comment telling me that, and I was like, you guys are lying. I thought that she actually loved Metro Man and nobody else. But no, she didn't really care about him in that way. She never loved him romantically. He was not her type. Anyways, Megamind and Roxanne share stories together, and they get closer and closer. And she goes back to her home, trying to put two and two together, trying to figure out a puzzle and a mystery of what's been going on. And as she steps back outside of her home, a mysterious man appears behind her. She's like, what the heck? Who is this guy? How is he flying? Why is he at my place? And during this exchange, Roxanne doesn't really talk that much. It's just Titan yapping endlessly, trying to impress her. Now she finally asks who this mysterious man is, and he just picks her up unexpectedly and takes her for a ride around town. She says, what do you think you're doing? And he doesn't really care, and he just drops her, and she thinks she's about to die. I think it's safe to say that Roxanne has been through a lot in this film. Like, this is quite terrifying for one character to go through in a single movie. Anyways, Titan brings her to the top of the building, and at this point she still has no idea who he is. She's like, this is a maniac, this is a lunatic, get away from me. Finally, Titan reveals that he is Hal, her co-worker, and she's still not happy to see him. She tells him that they will never be together, there is no us, and that breaks his heart. Okay, it shattered it. Anyways, Titan says that he's a good guy, and she actually accepts this. This scene was happening so fast, the first time around you don't realize that Roxanne was actually agreeing that Hal is a good guy, but the simple fact that she wasn't interested in him romantically made things go south really fast. Anyways, she shattered his heart, and he decides to leave her at the top of the building. Dude, that is so high up in the sky at nighttime. Do you not realize how terrified she's gonna be? Now in the movie, it doesn't actually explain how she got down from there, but I assume that there was a door on top that took her down, and she took an elevator to get to that date with Megamind, or a helicopter came to help her, but whatever. She shows up to the date late, and it's crazy because her hair is still wild from that scene from before. But Megamind don't care. He's a true hero because of this, okay? Anyways, as these two enjoy their date, Titan is actually outside the window, which means that he was stalking Roxanne from above. Like, you guys remember when he flew up out of our view? That man was floating above the clouds, keeping an eye on Roxanne. That's how he knew where she was. So when she ordered an Uber to come pick her up to drive her to the restaurant to get on that date with Megamind, Mr. Hal was watching and flying and made it to the window because yikes. Dang, I might have to do a video where I watch Megamind from Hal's eyes. It's crazy that Roxanne actually notices something in her peripheral vision. She looks to the right, but by the time her pupils make it, Mr. Titan is already gone. It's crazy because even she felt something was off. Something dark was brewing outside. Anyways, we get the first kiss between Roxanne and Megamind. Roxanne accidentally touches his watch, which controlled the shape-shifting, so he is revealed in his blue form, and everyone's terrified and shocked, including Roxanne. Her brain just turns off. She is completely in awe. She was making out with the man who literally was responsible for the death of the superhero Metro Man. She don't want to be kissing no murderer, so she's like, what the flip? I think this is where something in her brain and she was like, yeah, I'm done. Anyways, Megamind follows her, telling her that he can explain everything, but she's pissed, and for a good reason, man. But I do wish that she gave Megamind a chance in this, because it still was him at the end of the day, but the deception part makes it great. Then she drops a really savage line.
Do you really think that I would ever be with you?
Man, when I watched this movie for the first time, I was just like, this is cinema. Two of these men have been rejected so hard, it kind of makes you feel like you're no longer watching an animation. It doesn't feel like these are CGI characters. They feel like real people, real stories. I mean, she is breaking hearts left and right because her heart itself is broken. You don't think Roxanne's suffering too? Everybody in this movie is going through things, and it's a huge emotional roller coaster. Now here's where Roxanne actually looks back, and I think that what's going on in her head is probably this. Perhaps Roxanne was doubting her own decision to reject Megamind because she probably was thinking, hey, I had such a great time with this dude, even though he lied to me and shapeshifted, but at the end of the day, that still was the real him. So I think there's a conflict going on there. She didn't have to say this verbally, but I believe everything is on screen for us to see. Anyways, Titan goes crazy and destroys the city, and Megamind goes to Roxanne's home and tells her that they need to find help to defeat Titan. So these two end up looking for clues, and they end up at the old schoolhouse that Megamind went to, and they enter Metro Man's abandoned lair. Now remember, in this film, everyone assumed that Metro Man had died early on. People have mourned his loss and recovered from that. However, Megamind and Roxanne run into a glass with ice cubes still in it. How did it not melt, huh? That doesn't make sense. And it's revealed that Metro Man is alive. Yes, he's well. What the hell was this man doing this entire time? But we're not focusing on his perspective. We're focusing on Roxanne. She is extremely hurt and annoyed that he faked his death.
Ugh, how could you do this? Ugh, the people of the city relied on you and you deserted them.
And he tells him what happened, but he still refuses to help Roxanne. So she gives up on everyone at this point and says, hey, I'm gonna take this matter into my own hands. Anyways, Megamind reveals this.
I don't get the girl. I'm going home.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the point where this movie is just a rom-com. Like, this isn't even a superhero film if you only focus on Roxanne. Anyways, even Megamind gives up and Roxanne just looks at the city in disappointment. Megamind quit, Metro Man quits, even Hal quit on himself to become Titan. Now, the funny thing is, Metro Man is probably still in that building playing the guitar. Megamind is in jail and Titan is just destroying the city. So this is where Roxanne decides to take things into her own hands, and she becomes very courageous. Guys, are we sure that Roxanne isn't the hero in Megamind as well? Because she's displaying a high level of confidence here. Metro Man gone, Megamind gone, but she decided to face death without hesitation. She screams at the threat and he slams down in anger. Titan says that he is over her, and she replies saying that he needs to give up on destroying the city. But she also uses some talk no jutsu, which obviously does not work, and I kind of have to agree slightly with Titan here when he says that this is basically all fluff and that she never really cared before, but now she's pretending like she does. Like, it's not that genuine. Even I can see that, Roxanne. But I still think that Roxanne had the right to reject whoever she wanted to reject in the movie. Titan needs to realize that she doesn't owe anybody anything, just like I would do it in the reverse for him, that he doesn't owe her anything. That way you're not picking favorites and everyone gets treated fairly. But Titan wouldn't understand that. He thinks that he deserves her love because he saved her from his own foolishness. It's kind of like me lending you a pencil and me expecting you to propose to me tomorrow. Okay, that's just Anyway, Titan doesn't want her to have a choice in this matter and just snatches her up again, ties her at the top of the building so she can't escape. And boy, Roxanne just, her life sucks, man. I'm sorry to be honest with you, her life sucks. She is tied up once again. Do you know how many times she's been tied up throughout her life? I'm talking way before the drama of Titan. Like, even with Megamind, she's been tied up multiple times, just hearing people yap about nonsense. She not fighting, she ain't having the fun, she just tied up. Titan just yaps his mouth in front of her. Even when Megamind comes in to save the day, she's forced to watch them from the sidelines. That sucks. Anyways, things goes bonkers and we get some throwbacks to the past, and Megamind actually came out on top and protected the city even though he was the villain all along or whatever. And I think at this point Roxanne kind of realized that Titan was trying to kill her and everybody in the city that he didn't like. But in the end, things worked out for good. The day is saved, and in celebration of Megamind, Roxanne ends up giving him a kiss, which is crazy because Metro Man would have seen her kiss him. I wonder what Metro Man was thinking when he saw that. Yeah, he decided to come out of hiding, to take a break from learning the guitar. Maybe he was giving time for the palm of his hand to develop calluses. Man, when you start trying to learn the guitar for the first time, you can't just jump right in. I mean, it takes time for your hand to develop that calluses. Good to see you, Metro Man. But it's also good to see that Roxanne fell in love with someone despite him looking like Megamind. I think she's a cool character, man. I actually really like Roxanne. She's not annoying, and I don't think she's just a damsel in distress. She's a very complex character when you break her down. Watching Megamind through Roxanne's perspective reveals just how layered her character truly was. She may have been labeled as a supporting character, but her presence anchored the story in ways I've never seen before. She doesn't even have superpowers or wear a cape, yet her willingness to confront danger head on shows remarkable courage. Even when the city fell into chaos, she stepped forward when no one else would, fully aware of the risk to her own life. And in that choice, Roxanne reminded us that true heroism is not defined by strength or fame, but by the quiet bravery to stand for others when it matters most. After a lifetime of watching others from a distance, she grew tired of being restrained, and in the end, she risked her own life so that others may continue to live. It's a quiet act of courage, yet one that echoes louder than any punch ever could.